Ever feel like your to-do list is holding you hostage? Like it's not even a list anymore. It's like the boss of you.
Yeah.
Well, today we're breaking free from just checking those boxes. We're going to explore how to actually take charge using, get this, design thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I know you might be thinking design thinking. Isn't that like for designers? For people who make logos and stuff.
Yeah, you do hear that a lot.
But trust me, it's not just about sleek logos or the perfect app interface, okay? It's really a way of thinking, a problem-solving toolkit that anyone can use. And it's surprisingly powerful, even for something as personal as, well, conquering that to-do list.
Okay.
Our guide for this deep dive is a really thought-provoking excerpt from Design Thinking in Everyday Life.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the core concepts from it, but more importantly, we're going to figure out how you can actually use them in your own life.
I like that. You know what I find really fascinating about this excerpt is that it takes design thinking and it makes it, like, not so intimidating. It shows how it's not some rigid academic thing, you know? It's really about tapping into those intuitive problem-solving skills we all already use, just in a more conscious and, dare I say, playful way.
Exactly. Taking those, well, duh, I already do that moments to like a whole new level.
Yeah.
We're talking about going from, well, duh, I already do that to, wow, I can actually use this strategically.
I like it.
So the excerpt breaks design thinking down into 5 core steps: empathy, problem definition, ideation, prototyping, and testing and iteration. Let's start with empathy, which, might seem a little counterintuitive when we're talking about, conquering your inbox.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
That's where the everyday life part gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
It's not about, like, feeling sorry for your overflowing inbox. It's about understanding why you're feeling so overwhelmed by it.
Yes.
Is it fear of missing an important email, or is it a need to feel in control? Or once you pinpoint that root cause, that's when you can start crafting solutions that actually work for you.
Like that example in the excerpt with Emma and her struggle with procrastination.
Yeah.
She wasn't just being lazy. She was actually terrified of not being perfect.
Yeah.
And that fear was like it was a roadblock.
Yeah.
It was keeping her stuck.
And so many of us, we fall into that trap, right?
Well, yeah.
We judge ourselves. I'm so disorganized. I'm just not a morning person.
Yeah.
We don't dig into that why.
Right.
And that's often the key to unlocking a more creative, effective solution, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It's like trying to fix a flat tire by just like painting over it.
Exactly.
You're not actually addressing the real problem. So, okay, so we've tapped into some self-empathy here. We've gotten real about what's really going on.
Okay.
Now what's next?
Now comes the art of defining the problem. And I don't just mean stating the obvious, right?
Okay.
It's about reframing that challenge. So instead of saying, my to-do list is out of control,
Right.
you might ask, how might I design a system that helps me prioritize what truly matters?
Ooh, I like that.
It's subtle, but
It's a total shift.
yeah, it can make all the difference.
Like, yeah, instead of defeat, it's like challenge accepted.
Exactly.
You're giving yourself permission
Yeah.
to get creative and really find a solution.
Yeah, and speaking of creativity, that's where this whole ideation thing comes in.
Okay.
This is where we ditch the judgment, right? And we just let those ideas flow.
Like a brainstorming party, but for your life.
Exactly. And the excerpt talks about some cool techniques like mind mapping, which is basically like visual brainstorming or rapid ideation, where you try to come up with as many ideas as possible, no matter how crazy, in a short amount of time.
I like that, rapid ideation. But I have to imagine, though, this is where some people might, like, hit a wall. I know I can be guilty of, like, but that'll never work.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's where it's so helpful to remember those empathy insights we talked about earlier.
Oh, right.
So if you're like resisting an idea, ask yourself why.
Yeah.
Is this a valid concern, or is it just fear dressed up as being practical?
It's so true. Challenging those self-imposed limitations.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's say we've brainstormed. We've got all these awesome ideas. How do we take it from like pie in the sky to actually making it happen?
That is the million-dollar question. And that's where prototyping comes in.
Okay.
Now, before you picture yourself like at a workbench with glue and glitter.
Although crafting is a great way to tackle that to-do list.
Touche, touche. But in this context, prototyping is about testing our solutions on a small scale. So instead of overhauling your entire life, you try out a few tweaks, see what happens.
Kind of like a test drive, but for your life.
Precisely. You take those great ideas out for a spin, see how they handle those curves. The excerpt gives a great example. Osama, he wanted to design a better morning routine to be more productive. But instead of, going from 0 to 60 overnight, he had a more, strategic approach.
Tell me he didn't give up his morning coffee.
Not quite. He identified a few key elements, meditation, journaling, some exercise, and he tested each one for a week.
Okay, so it's less about like rigid rules.
Yes.
And more about what works for you. Like maybe that 6 a.m. workout's just not happening, but 10 minutes of journaling before bed and you feel like a productivity superstar.
Now you're getting it.
Okay.
And that brings us to our final and I think most crucial step, testing and iteration.
Okay.
And this is where we embrace the beauty of constant improvement.
So it's a process, not about finding the perfect solution on the first try.
Right, exactly. It's more about embracing this journey.
Okay.
This journey of continuous improvement,
Okay.
Think of it like fine-tuning a recipe.
I like that.
You experiment, you tweak, you maybe call your grandmother for advice.
Oh, the best recipes always come with some family wisdom, right?
Exactly.
Okay, but I see what you're saying. It's about being open to making those changes along the way.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And remember, Osama, our morning routine guru,
Yeah.
he didn't just test those habits for a week and call it quits, right? He kept track. How did they make him feel? What worked? What didn't?
Yeah.
And then, he'd make adjustments. It was all about finding that sweet spot.
So he's treating his whole morning routine like a prototype.
Yes.
Constantly testing and iterating. That's really inspiring.
It is.
It's like taking all those life hack articles, the ones we all read.
Yeah.
And turning them into like a personalized system that actually works for you.
Yes. And isn't that what we all want?
Yeah.
To figure out what makes us tick.
Right.
And design a life that actually feels good.
Yeah.
That reflects our values.
And our goals. This whole time I've been thinking about our initial question. How do we use design thinking to tackle that, that overwhelming to-do list?
Well, if we think back to Osama, right?
Yeah.
It all started with understanding his why.
Okay.
He wanted a morning routine that made him feel more productive, more fulfilled. So I think when it comes to that to-do list, the first step is asking yourself, what does a successful day look like for me?
Not just checking things off, but feeling good about how you spent your energy, your time.
Exactly. And from there you start brainstorming, right?
Okay.
How to structure your day and your to-do list in a way that supports that vision. Maybe it's about prioritizing, what really moves the needle.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's about, more breaks.
Oh, breaks are good.
Moments of joy throughout the day.
Yes. So design thinking, it's not just about fixing the bad stuff.
Right.
It's about designing a life you actually enjoy.
Yes.
That's a pretty awesome takeaway.
And, if we think back to the excerpt, it ends on this really powerful thought. Life is the ultimate design project. So I'll leave you with this. What are you currently designing for yourself, intentionally or not?
Ooh.
And what's one small step, just one, that you can take today to move a little bit closer to that vision?
Now that is something to think about.
It is.
We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into, the world of design thinking. Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep designing a life you love.